A reading from the teachings of the 4th century mystic Gregory of Nyssa. God has logos, else he would be without reason. And this logos cannot be merely an attribute of God. We are led to a more exalted conception of the logos by the consideration that in the measure in which God is greater than we, all his predicates must also be higher than those that belong to us. Our logos is limited and transient, but the substance of the divine logos must be indestructible and at the same time living, since the rational cannot be lifeless. It follows that, together with the Word, he who speaks it, which is the Father of the Word, must be recognized as existing. We affirm that we find in the Logos, whose existence is derived from the Father, all the attributes of the Father's nature. God created by his reason and wisdom, for he cannot have proceeded irrationally in that work. But his reason and wisdom are not to be conceived as a spoken word or as the mere possession of knowledge, but as a personal and self-willed potency. In the entire cosmos, if the entire cosmos was created by this second divine personage, then certainly was humanity also thus created. Yet not because of any necessity, but from superabounding love, that there might exist a being who could participate in the divine perfections. If humans are to be receptive to that perfection, it is necessary that human nature should contain an element akin to God, and, in particular, that they should be immortal. Thus, then, was humanity created in the image of God. They could not, therefore, be without gifts of freedom, independence, and self-determination, and humanity's participation in the divine gifts was consequently made dependent on virtue. Owing to this freedom, they could decide in favor of evil, which cannot have its origins in the divine will, but only in our inner selves.
This morning's reading is from the Prophecy to the Races of Man, chapter 70, The Great Day of God. Then the voice said unto the man, Man was created in the image of God. Man was given a body of light, immortal and everlasting, and man was given consciousness and understanding. And God intended that man share in the creation. But man, wishing to be as God, to know all things and to move the creation as an equal with God, deviated from the way, violating the laws imposed upon him. For man did not wish to obey the laws of creation. While receiving the gift of life, man wished to dominate the giver of life. And because of this, man fell from grace and descended into matter. And being all good, God would restore the world to light as a final act of redemption. And he would not that this light be darkened by unrighteousness. Therefore, the Son of Righteousness shall burn bright in the heavens. For evil men will think dark thoughts and oppose the coming of God's light. And God shall judge them by the light thereof. For his word shall burn brighter than a fire. And unrighteous men and their works shall be burned by this fire, until their minds and spirits are purified. And then shall they know knowledge of God. Holy books recorded the prophecy of this event. For behold, the day cometh, that men shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly, shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. And you have read the words of the prophets who spoke of this day long before the coming of Jesus. And God's star shall arise in the heavens as a king, lighting up the light of knowledge as the sun the day. And he shall be magnified in the world. He shall shine forth as the sun on the earth, and shall remove all darkness from under heaven. And there shall be peace in all the earth. The heavens shall exult in his days, and the earth shall be glad, and the clouds shall rejoice. And the knowledge of the Lord shall be poured forth upon the earth as the water of the seas. And you have also read, when all creation, visible and invisible, as the Lord created it, shall end, then every man goes to the great judgment, and then all time shall perish, and the years. And thenceforward there will be neither months, nor days, nor hours. They will be stuck together, and will not be counted. There will be one Ion, and all the righteous who shall escape the Lord's great judgment shall be collected in the great Ion. For the righteous, the great Ion will begin, and they will live eternally. And then too there will be amongst them neither labor nor sickness, nor humiliation, nor anxiety, nor need, nor violence, nor night, nor darkness, but great light. And the prophets of old said that in the final age God shall judge the lords of the earth, the rulers and leaders of mankind, and all those who turn from the light of his goodness. And it was prophesied that the sun would be darkened, and the moon give of its light, and the stars would fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens would be shaken when God would establish his kingdom of light, and the righteous would shine as the sun. And some men feared this event, and others have scoffed at it, disbelieving that the ancient prophets were informed of future events. But I say unto the races of man that God's light shall save the world from a very dark rule, when man shall be under the powers of darkness and oppressed by war and tribulation, unlike anything the world has ever known. And the coming forth of God's light, filled with knowledge and love, shall be for the redemption and salvation of the human family. Men shall not be cast into hell and burned with fire, as some have taught, but burned by the great light of God, which shall blind the eyes with its brilliance, and heat the brain with its energy and thoughts. Therefore God's judgment is righteous, for the world would be destroyed totally were it not for the intervention of God, who loves his children, and would redeem them from the pain of darkness and enslavement to ignorance. Therefore the righteous and goodly men of the world look for the coming of God's triumphant day, when the whole world will be transformed into light, and man shall be enlarged, and his world shall be enlarged, so there will be no more need for death. And the righteous and goodly of the world will not be blinded by the sun's brilliance, but will flourish in its goodness. It was written that, for those that love God, the Sun of Righteousness will shine forth with healing in its rays, and goodly men will live in the goodness thereof. And the ancients, knowing of things to come, saw into the future, and by the knowing they validated the events, for no man can see that which has not or will not transpire.